Welcome back to day number 20 of 30 Days of Q&A. And today I wanted to continue based off of the last video that I just recorded. What exactly is a funnel, and what are the steps to take someone from new listener to an actual fan and someone who actually purchases something from you? So really the purpose of a funnel in terms of your marketing is to take someone from cold to warm to hot. And so you can think of a funnel like a warming up mechanism. And what this means is if someone's cold, it means that maybe they would absolutely love your music if they knew who you were and they had listened to a few of your songs, but at this time they just don't know who you are. They have no relationship with you. It's totally cold. So if you walk up to them and you said, "Hey, I've got a really awesome T-shirt. You should get the T-shirt," but they've never heard your music before, then it wouldn't make any sense because that would be like asking someone to marry you on your first date. So that's a quote unquote cold fan. And someone who's quote unquote hot is someone who knows who you are. They absolutely love your music. They're the kind of person that drives 3 states across to come see you play, shows you a tattoo on their skin of one of your lyrics from your songs, spends several $100s at your merch table every single time they come to a show. And so these people who are quote unquote hot is like a super fan. And this is someone who gets the most value from you and from your music, and they really resonate with your songs. And also, these are the people that, in terms of the 80-20 rule, these are the small percentage of people that support your music that actually account for the vast majority of your actual revenue and your income. So it's really important to figure out who are these people and how do I connect and build a relationship with these types of people, and how do I take someone from cold to warm to hot. So that's really the purpose of a funnel. The further down someone goes in the funnel, the warmer that they get. And the other way that you can think about a funnel is that I like to say that the V in funnel stands for value. And so another way you can look at your funnel is that it's a value delivery mechanism. And the further someone goes down in your funnel, the more value that you're providing. And that's also what tends to warm up the relationship at the same time. So here are the 4 steps that every single artist that we work with, that we build into the funnel. And we've invested over $730,000 now in the past year alone to test out a lot of different traffic sources, different funnels, different types of offers. And what I'm going to share with you right now is what we found getting the best results. So step 1 is we always start by making a list of all of the similar artists to you that have fans that might like your music too. And my best recommendation for this, I know at the beginning, if you haven't done this type of targeting yet, then it's going to stretch you a little bit. You're like, who do I sound like? I'm eclectic. I don't sound like anyone else. But the truth is you weren't born in a vacuum. And so you definitely have influences that you can use for this initial targeting. The place that I would start is I would make a list of your favorite bands of all time and who would be a dream tour that if you could go on tour with for this music that you're releasing now, who do you think would be a good fit for the tour? And you start there and you come to this website, music-map.com. And if you type in the name of one of those artists, then it's going to pop up a big giant list of all of the similar artists that relate to the one that you typed in. And this is great for brainstorming. Just make a big list of all of the related artists. And honestly, this is a really valuable list that I would recommend just having for multiple different reasons, like having a big list of all of the similar bands to you, all the bands that you'd like to go on tour with, all the different bands that have fans that might like your music too. And these also might be people that you actually consider for your first tour. If you want to hit the road and start going on tour, then here's a list of all of the artists that you could consider aiming to go on tour with, for example. But in this funnel, I'd recommend making a list of all of the artists that you resonate with. And then through here, if there's one that you really like, you're like, oh, you know what, the Somerset, I'm a huge fan of them. Then you can click on that. It's going to repopulate all of the related bands that have music that's similar to the artist that you typed in. So I'd start by brainstorming and probably making a list of 50 to 100 artists that you can start with targeting. But then you want to narrow it down to your top 3 to 5 to start with. And you can always test out more down the line, but I would start with those 3 to 5. And then earlier in the series, we walked through virtual tour hacking, how to actually launch one of these campaigns directly to these artists. So I would launch one of those campaigns and send them to your tip of the iceberg content. And so this is basically your top 1 to 3 songs that have gotten the best response, that are your best starting point to cut through the noise. And so I would send them to the tip of the iceberg content through one of those messenger campaigns. It starts a conversation with them in your inbox. And using the StreetTeam software, it literally opens up in the conversations tab so you can have a conversation with these people. And you can even automate it and create a more advanced chatbot system to free up your time. But to start with, I wouldn't even worry about that. I'd just start by having organic conversations with your fans until you reach a point that you just can't keep up with the amount of messages that are coming in. So you share one of your songs, you share your quote unquote tip the iceberg content, and then they listen to it. And the next step here, that's probably the most crucial part of your entire marketing funnel. If you don't have this, then this whole thing is going to fail long term, and you could spend tens of thousands of dollars in ads, and it's basically not going to work. You're going to lose a bunch of money if you don't have this. Versus if you have this set up, the InTune process, then you're virtually guaranteed to be successful with it because you're iterating over time. And so with this, you're virtually guaranteed to be successful. Without this, you're virtually guaranteed to fail using this specific strategy. And this is your InTune process. So the analogy here is that if you happen to write the #1 song of all time, and experts around the world agree, wow, you did it. You wrote, this is the best song ever. Every single person that listens to this song, like, they start to cry and it changes their life. And everyone acknowledged, okay, this is the best song of all time. And then let's imagine that you also took lessons for 20 years from the best teachers of all time. You learned how to perform, and you could perform this song with your eyes closed. When you're sleeping, you can play the song perfectly. Even if you had the best song of all time and you were the best performer of all time, if you went up on stage to play that song and your guitar is completely out of tune, then it doesn't matter how good the song is. It doesn't matter how talented you are. When you start playing that song, it's going to sound terrible. It's not going to resonate. It's not going to sound good. People aren't going to enjoy it. And the same thing applies to your music and your marketing. It doesn't matter how good your songs are. It doesn't matter how talented you are. If you don't have your marketing set up, you're not targeting the right people, then it's not going to resonate. It's going to clash. It's not going to sound good. And so your InTune process is really a tuning mechanism. This is a device that lets you tune your marketing. And the way that this works is that, let's imagine this in this way. Let's say that you have 3 different tiers of fans. You have bronze, silver, and gold fans. And so in this example, let's imagine that a bronze fan is someone that has never spent $1 supporting a musician ever, right? They don't ever go out to shows. They hardly ever listen to music. They've never spent $1 on buying anything from an artist. Versus a gold fan is someone who spent $10,000 in the past year alone supporting crowdfunding campaigns and going out to shows and being a super fan of a bunch of different artists. Which of these types of fans do you think are more likely to become a super fan of your music and to spend money on your music? Right? Obviously the gold fan. And the reason is because it's like Newton's laws of motion. An object in motion tends to remain in motion. And so someone who's a bronze fan, they don't have a lot of momentum. They don't have a lot of inertia. They're not currently supporting artists. And so if you are trying to advertise to these people and you're saying, hey, come listen to my music and you'll come out to my shows and purchase things, it's just very unlikely that these types of people are going to respond to that. Compared to if you're reaching these people who are already doing that and who are already super fans and love music, they're huge music fans, it's 100,000 times more likely that they're going to be a super fan of your music and to support you. And so when it comes to different types of promotion strategies, earlier on in the series, we walked through tour hacking, virtual tour hacking, hyper networking. And if you remember tour hacking, that was basically the idea that our band, we walked up to strangers in lines for shows. And this is how we went from scratch to selling 24,000 CDs in about 6 months. And I think part of the reason that worked so was because the fans that we were meeting in lines for shows, those are gold fans already. Because the fact that they were waiting in line for a show means that they got off their butts to go support live music. And they actually spent money to be there. And so they're pre-qualified. Those people are very likely to be high quality fans who love music enough to actually go out to shows. Whereas if you're running, I don't know, Spotify playlist promotions or you're running ads, then generally what happens if you don't have your targeting set up in the right way, if you don't have a funnel set up, is that they're going to prioritize the campaign to get you the cheapest results for the least amount of budget. And what that means is that if, for example, you say, I want to get video views on my new music video, then what's going to happen is Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, anything you use for this is going to look at this amount of budget that you gave them and say, okay, how can we get as many views for as cheap as possible? These are the people that it tends to be the cheapest to reach through ads, and therefore you might get 100,000 views from third world countries or from bots or accounts that aren't necessarily true fans who are going to come out to your shows and engage and support you. It's actually pretty easy to do that. It's not very hard to get 100,000 views from fake bots, fake followers. You can Google like how to do this. There's tons of services that will allow you to do this. The issue is that by default, if you don't do a good job setting up your conversion objectives, if you just kind of leave the default settings, then these platforms are going to be sending these people who have never spent a penny on anything online in their entire lives. And you're not making enough back from that money you're putting in order for it to be sustainable. Instead, really what I would recommend doing is the opposite direction, telling these platforms, these are actually the people who are the most valuable to my music, to my business, because they're actually the ones who are showing up and are purchasing things from me. And I want to find more people like this. And then you can create something called a lookalike audience based on this audience that you're creating. But this doesn't happen automatically. Like you have to set things up so that you can tell YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, these are the people that I want to reach, right? By default, it's not going to do that for you. And so that's one of the reasons it's so important to have this InTune process, to have a CRM that basically allows you to segment and keep track of the lifetime value and how much these fans are purchasing from you and how much that they're engaged, because that's how you can tell these platforms, I want to create a lookalike audience based on these people. And what I would recommend as well is having a survey process where you can ask questions and you can get to know those fans better. We have something called your InTune survey, but really the next step in the process here is after you have that survey and after you have this conversation, one, they've listened to your music. Two, now you've qualified them. You made sure that they actually enjoyed the music and you got to know them better. And three is now you need to offer them something valuable in exchange for joining your StreetTeam. And so there's different things that you could do for this. For a long time, what we would recommend is inviting them to your private group and saying, hey, thanks so much for listening to my song. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. By the way, I have this private StreetTeam group, and this is a place that I do private live streams once a week, perform new music for you. And normally this is $1 per month on Patreon, but as a thank you for listening to my music and being one of my first fans, I actually want to invite you for free, so you don't have to pay the $1 per month. Is that something you'd be interested in? And if they enjoyed your music, then they're going to say, yeah, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much for offering it. Say, awesome, great. What's your email address? I'll show you an invite. And boom. So that's how you can bring people into your community. The other way that you could do it, and this is something that's much more cutting edge because it's happening right now as we roll out our new Music Relic NFT marketplace, but you actually could offer a free NFT in exchange for joining your community. And so what this looks like is with the NFT marketplace that we've created, you can create a limited amount of these Music Relic NFTs, and you can actually offer one of the more common rarities of this for free. You can say, normally this costs $10, but I want to offer you one of them for free. Is that something you'd be interested in? And then you can actually bundle in that $1 per month access to your inner circle can be bundled in. So if they own this, then that actually means that they get granted access to this $1 per month level of your StreetTeam, which is a cool thing to be able to offer as like a value add for those first 500 people. And then you can create a bunch of these different types of bronze NFTs for all of your different moments in your songs. From there, that's really step number 3 is them subscribing, joining your community. Now you actually have their contact info, so you can follow up with them. You can build a deeper relationship. When you release a new song, you can reach out to them directly and either send them a text message or send them an email and say, hey, I just released a new song. I'd love for you to check it out. Or if you're going to play a show in New York and you know that they live in New York, you can send out a text message to them and say, hey, I'm going to be playing in New York. We should hang out. So having this contact info is super, super valuable. And from there, we walked through this in a different video. I think we walked through the value ladder and all the different price points, but I would recommend having at least 4 different price points of different products that you can offer to your fans. And I would recommend doing some form of survey or some sort of questionnaire to get to know them better and basically ask them, which of these are you most interested in? And you can use that for feedback. You can use that to get to know which of these things are actually valuable to people, which ones do they want. And if someone says, hey, you writing a custom song for me or you doing this private wedding performance is something that I'd be very interested in, you say, awesome, let's hop on a Zoom call and we can talk more about it and figure out the details. You'd only want to do that for the higher end, the diamond offer. For these other ones, you could just send them straight to the actual sales page for it. But But the idea here in terms of the lightning effect is that the reason that with the InTune process, virtually you're guaranteed over time to be successful as long as you keep going and you keep optimizing your funnel is because out of the billions of people that exist right now on the internet, on these different social media platforms, I guarantee you that you can find at least 1,000 people who resonate with you and resonate with your music enough that they become a super fan. And they spend at least $100 a year to support your music. Right? This is a very common theory. Is if you have 1,000 fans who spend $100 per year to support your music, then you have a 6-figure income from your music. And I guarantee you, out of the billions of people that are on these social media platforms, you can find at least 1,000 people who are true fans, who absolutely love your music. It's just a matter of finding those people. And by default, you have to hone in your targeting. You have to figure out who are those people to be able to attract them. But the way that you do it is by letting these platforms know who are your most engaged fans, who are the people who are actually truly enjoying it. And so to create a lookalike audience, the minimum amount of people that you need is 100 subscribers to create this lookalike audience. And so what's going to happen is the more data that you have coming in through your funnel, you need to make sure that you're optimizing your targeting based on your highest quality 100 fans that you have in your audience at any one time. So if you're just starting out and you don't have 100 people who are gold fans yet, then you might have to create a lookalike audience based on your bronze fans to start out with. As soon as you have at least 100 people, now you can create that lookalike audience based on bronze fans. And if those are people who've actually gone all the way through the funnel and they've joined your StreetTeam, it's probably going to be your best audience yet. And the reason we call this the lightning effect is because usually what we'll do is after we've been running this campaign for long enough to have at least 100 people who've subscribed to your StreetTeam, now you can create a lookalike audience based on that audience, and you can supercharge this campaign. And sometimes we'll see a lookalike audience performing 10 to 15 times better than a cold interest-based audience, especially if the lookalike audience is based on customers or really high-value clients. And so usually what we'll do is we'll turn off the audiences that aren't working best at this point and continue to run traffic to the audiences that are resonating most, and we'll supercharge them with lookalike audiences. And then what's going to happen is as you continue to grow your music career, as soon as you have at least 100 people who've purchased your free plus shipping offer or your lowest tier offer, this is probably going to be the first place that you get 100 people, right? Because you'll get 100 of them before you get 100 people who spent over $1,000 on you. So if you start with the free plus shipping offer, you get 100 people. Now you can create a lookalike audience based on this group. And this is probably going to be your best targeting audience yet. And same thing applies once you have 100 people who purchase your VIP bundle. Now you can create a lookalike audience based on those people. And you basically want to do this for every different offer that you have and keep track of lifetime value. And then if you upload that to these lookalike audiences, you can actually tell YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, these are my most valuable audience members based on how much they've actually spent to support my music. And can you imagine having a lookalike audience based on all of your fans who spent more than $1,000 to support your music? You think that audience might be a little bit more likely to be a super fan of your music and resonate with it? Of course, this is the best audience that you could create, but you don't necessarily start out with that. And that's why you have to have the system set up to be able to make sure that you're supplying the data based on the people who are resonating with your music, who are coming all the way through, who are actually voting with their dollars, right? Because the people who go all the way through this funnel, they've basically proven themselves. They've gone through the filtration mechanism. They've proven themselves to be the right fit. And then once you've gotten the most value from you and from your music. And so you want to reach more people that are similar to those people as well. All right, so that was day 20 of 30 Days of Q&A. I hope this was valuable for you. If you enjoyed it, if you could do me a favor and smash the like button. I still need to get used to saying that. Smash the like button. I would appreciate that because it lets YouTube know that this has been valuable for you. And if you have any questions that you'd like to submit and come on here live to have them answered for you on Zoom, you can click on the link in the description to submit your question. And until next time, yeah! I'm being tracked!